This is another episode of News from Canada. Okay, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has shown himself to be a creep. And, well, what did he do? Well, he gave a whole pile of money to a foundation. And the foundation kicked back money, a lot of it, hundreds of thousands of dollars apparently, to Justin Trudeau's mother and brother. And his finance minister, somehow his family got involved. They were giving them jobs. And so what does it mean? Well, it's not the first Canadian Prime Minister to be on the take. That's a Stevie Cameron book about former Prime Minister, Conservative Prime Minister Brian Mulroney. Don't forget that Justin Trudeau is a Liberal. So it's just, this whole thing with Trudeau has become, I don't know, it's just one elected government after another showing their true stripes to be, we're crooked, we're criminals. You look at the millions of dollars in scandals in Canadian government over the years, it's hard to believe anything they tell you. Canadian Health Minister was found to be flying between her hometown and the nation's capital, Ottawa. The health minister ordered Canadians to stay at home, not fly, and basically quarantine yourself. And she was flying from one city to another multiple times. This is what the elite is all about. Getting into positions of power so they can either make a lot of money or steal a lot of money. And they're used to it because their political parties take a lot of donations. It's all greasing everyone with money. Politics is corrupt, not just because of money. But you cannot trust what first of all, they're pretty much stupid people. You're not getting an Albert Einstein who's Minister of Health or Prime Minister. You're getting elite people. People who either they were born into it, Justin Trudeau, or they're social climbers. And they can see that the elite people are connected and they have it good. And these are social climbers, they want to join that club. Justin Trudeau's first justice minister, he had a big problem with, because the justice minister was looking at Trudeau and, well, this was another Trudeau scandal. SNC-Lavalin. The government didn't want to prosecute them for bribery overseas. So governments everywhere they're covering each other's backside. Diplomatic immunity. It still happens. Diplomatic immunity to the law of their own land that quite often they put into the law themselves. So, the news from Cuba. The news from Germany. The news from Project Orange. Project Orange is what we are doing on this channel. It is our story, Project Orange. We launched it years ago. And it's everything to do with Donald Trump, Project Orange. Because the man has got, quite often, orange hair, and looks like he's got... They used to have this stuff in the 1980s. It was called like quick tan. It was for like, if you wanted to, it was just got to be summer and you wanted to have an instant tan, you would put the stuff on. It wasn't anything to do with the sun, it was dye. And Donald Trump quite often looks like he's got like dyed orange skin from the 1980s, plus this dyed orange hair, Project Orange. So everything gets thrown in there, anything to do with orange, that we can somehow link to Donald Trump. Because he's Mr. Orange. There was that movie where there was Mr. Pink. I wish I could remember who that was. It's on the tip of my tongue. Reservoir Dogs or something. So anyway, Project Orange. I don't have any more. Anyway, we were talking about science, and I don't know. I keep wanting to repeat electron micrograph. You know, that's what they use to show you what a virus looks like. This thing is so small. How do you aim a camera at something this small? You'd have to use like a telescope. Electron micrographs. I mean, these things that you're looking at with one of these electron microscope, they're smaller than your hair. You know, one thread of hair. Like, they look at stuff way smaller than that. And you know, you might have used light microscopes in high school. Yeah, they look at stuff that's way smaller than what you can see with a light microscope. You can't see them with a light microscope. Virus particles. They're so tiny. According to theory. And they'll show you a picture and they say, we took a picture of it with electron microscope. This is an electron micrograph. Really? I mean, when you're in, I don't know when you first saw these things, 7th grade, 10th grade, electron micrographs. You know, when they were first developing this technology, how the hell did they know what they were looking at? How did they know what they were looking at was a piece of a cell? Or a piece of sawdust. Oh, they keep cleaning the inside of that thing. You just don't understand how small this stuff is. How easy is it to contaminate something that's super, super small? Very easy. Because stuff can just blow in on the air. Brownian motion, something moves that's so tiny. And they're saying, this is what we're looking at. Now, what happens with most people is your head's spinning around. You're trying to figure out, okay, well, what did I say that doesn't make sense? And you're trying to just like, it's like that drywall patch stuff. You know, there's something here, and what you want to do, instead of asking a real question about it, You just take the drywall fixer and you fix the hole. Because it's easier to do that than to go and jump into that hole and investigate it yourself. Don't expect somebody else to, because they probably did it anyways. But if you don't do it, I say time after time, people don't have a hard time believing, if you go into the bar, that somebody might try and rip you off. Because it's just a total group of people and they're in a bar drinking, and you just have experience knowing that drunk people will lie in order to get money, so they can buy another drink. So people will lie to you at the bar and they'll try and cheat you at the bar. I mean, everybody grew up. Everybody went through school, and certain kids. And that was their type. And everybody that wasn't playing that type knows how to play that type when it's the appropriate time. Opportunity knocks. People, what are they going to do? So, when it comes to science and electron micrographs, you're just going to, some people will just go into Google and type in electron micrograph and look at a picture and then either paste it and say, oh, look, I found this, or. But how many people are going to go and find an electron microscope and waltz in there and talk to the people there and say, yeah, I want to take a picture of something small? And not have them just show you pictures of things that were taken before. But no, fire that thing up. I want to see this electron micrograph. And I want you to show me a mitochondria. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go down to this river right here. And we're going to take a small water sample. And there's bound to be microscopic life in there. So we're just going to take it over to your lab, and we're just going to play with it. And we're going to keep zooming down till we get, from this particular sample here, an electron micrograph of a mitochondria from this sample here. And watch how they do it. You can't do it? I want to see it done. I mean, I went to a telescope night. And the telescope that we looked through a lot of light telescopes that were very cool, but there was one ginormous one for seeing deep, deep, deep. And it's all computer controlled. And it's in a dark, dark room, a dark dome. And, the computer goes and moves the telescope to the right spot in the sky to be looking at something. And earlier that night, we were having trouble with the light microscopes because there was a lot of humidity in the air. It was summertime. But anyway, we get back into this, the biggest telescope. It's all hooked up to computers, and we get shown okay, this is a certain star, and you look at it and it's just a bright light. That's all. There's nothing in the background to prove that there's anything there. So are you showing me something that this, apparently, you call it a telescope? I don't see the insides. It's all covered up. You're saying this is what we're seeing. It's a star somewhere, and another one was some other item. You looked at a few different things. But this thing was already hooked up to a computer, so how hard would it be to, just supply a computer-generated picture for the public? I mean, you don't think about these things. But you can't prove that that's a telescope thing and that you're not getting just an image in here. Well, they wouldn't do that, would they? They had to hook it up to a computer to figure out what they were looking at. So the technician doesn't know where these things are. The computer just moves some things, and then you gotta look, it's not an easy look, you gotta look through this eyepiece, and you're supposed to be seeing a star, and it's perfectly clear, even though tonight we're having trouble because of humidity in our atmosphere. But this was a super clear thing. And it's way further away than the light microscope ones. And it's perfect. Is that what that is with all this humidity? How did it get to be so clear, crystal clear in this little tiny thing that I'm looking at? Conspiracy theory. But, there's so many things that have been proved true. They're just flashing up something, it's just built into the computer system of this so-called really powerful, really expensive, so the government bought it for us, and that's what we're supposed to be looking at. I didn't get any training even in using the computer, so, the technician farted around with it. This is what we're supposed to be looking at, and I don't know how much they bought this thing for. Something like this ain't cheap. Easily, low end, I bet you $100,000 for this thing. Could be more, the way governments buy things. Are they going to have some government person go and check this thing out? Make sure it's a telescope, or are they just going to go and have them installed? I mean, you can't look at the top of the telescope. It's too far up there, inside this dome thing that protects it during the daytime from rain and shit. That's just one example. I mean, are you gullible? Do you think it's possible that that's the way the thing is set up? Are you like, no one would do that to me? Wake up! Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, was dishing out wheelbarrows of cash to his brother and his mother. These people are already criminals. They don't care. They have zero ethics. And then that's the one that knows what they're doing, and the ones that don't know what they're doing, they don't know what they're doing. You know people like this. You've had bosses like this. They don't know what they're doing, but they're really good at getting in your face. They're very aggressive. So you're intimidated. I was never intimidated, but yes, I was. Didn't want to lose my job. I needed the cash. It wasn't much cash. Pittance, really. But I needed it. Survival mode. Why is it on planet Earth that people go around in survival mode? They do. Everyone's always worried about, number one, worry, running out of money. Number two, I'm going to die. People are worried about death and money. So, you got a contracted heart because you're running around in fear. And granted, this place is hell. But if you can't expand from the contracted view of life, then you're a slave. You're a slave. On the other hand, if you can expand your consciousness and walk through the fear, eventually realizing you're feeling fear, it's not your energy. Enough of us not being afraid. But you're trained to be afraid. You're trained to be a slave. There were great movements of humans in the past when they felt like they were getting screwed. The union movement, labor unions. The capitalist class has, throughout history, squeezed the slave class. And unions was one way that regular people banded together to get them out of slavery.